Testifying in your own case. I would say 95 to 98% of the time, a defendant is not going to testify in his own case. And there's several reasons for that, but one of the biggest reasons for that is that it subjects them to cross-examination. Cross-examination by the state, the constant pressure by an experienced prosecutor who knows how to ask questions. Because you're not a lawyer, because you're in the heat of the moment and you're defending your own self when you take the stand, you run the risk, based on lack of experience, in how to properly testify. However, there are times when a defendant needs to testify on his own behalf to explain to a jury why a certain conduct occurred and to give his version of events. The one mistake that I see that occurs often is that when a defendant takes the stand, first of all, they need to remember that they're being analyzed. They're not just telling a story. Because they're being cross-examined, there's a lot of things that the jury is looking at. The jury is looking at whether or not they cross their arms, whether or not they show attitude, whether or not they seem remorseful. And not only is the jury doing this, but the judge is also doing this. And remember that if you're convicted, the judge is the one that's sentencing you. So you want them to believe your story. So one of the first things, and I think one of the most important things when a defendant is taking the stand in his own defense, is to remind him not to argue with a prosecutor, not to give attitude, but simply to show or demonstrate by words, not by yelling or screaming or pounding or crossing their hands in disgust or being evasive, but literally trying to answer eagerly the cross-examination questions that are posed by the state attorney. If you can come across as someone who's not fighting, someone who's not belligerent or disorderly, then the likelihood of the jury believing your version of events or a judge believing your version of events increases dramatically. And it starts with how you dress for court, how you present yourself, whether you're clean shaven or, if you're a female, whether you're well groomed and your hair is combed and brushed, all of these things go into effect. Remember, they know that you're not a professional. They know that you're testifying. They know that you've been accused of a crime. And they can also imagine to some extent maybe some of the stress that you may be going through. But you, as a defendant, testifying on your own behalf, need to remember you being antagonistic with a prosecutor, you arguing with a prosecutor, you trying to upstage or outthink a prosecutor and say, well, the law says this, doesn't it? Or that kind of thing is very detrimental to your case. So remember, if you need to testify during your case as a defendant, you want to come across as nice and open as possible. Do not argue. Do not try to become a lawyer. Do not fight and battle with the prosecutor to see who's wittier, because you're always going to lose. Anyway, folks, I just wanted to give you some information about testifying. If you have a case and your attorney tells you that your testimony is essential in your defense, then maybe you'll remember these words and it'll work out for you. Best of luck.